Hey guys, it's Katie. So I'm just finishing up these ones. I'm resining them right now, and I thought of a different project to make that I saw something similar on a Google photo, and it kind of reminded me of a picture frame I made a while back. Maybe I'll take a picture of it and show it to you, but I wanted to try to mimic that in clay. So first off, I have this blend here that I'm just going to use, and I'm going to use it as like a brown. It's a great time to use your scrap browns if you have scrap brown, or just your mud colors would probably work really well on this. So I'm just going to mix this up until it's a homogeneous mix, just completely mixed. And when I tri-fold it like that, I'm putting it in my rollers so it squishes the air up and out. But it's faster to mix it if you can mix it in thirds like that, or multiples. Just make sure your rollers always go in to where it pushes your air up and out. You don't want to put it in like this because it'll trap the air in there. So that's a nice easy way to mix color, and it will tend to mix it a lot faster if you can fold it rather than just twice. This I'm thinking will be kind of cool if I can get it to come out the way I want it to come out. And again, if you have a bunch of colors that will mix up to make brown, that would probably be a nice way to use your mud colors. You know what I'll probably do? I'll probably get some out and mix them up too. There's that one. Let me grab a couple scrap colors. Let's see what I got. My mud mix here. So this is my little box. I love these little boxes. They're super thin, if you can see that. I got like a pack of 10, and that's what I've been keeping my canes in. I got them on Amazon. They're project cases. They're 10.5 by 11.5 by only 1 9/16 inch tall. So it's almost 2 inches tall, but it fits my canes perfectly. So this is where I keep all of my scrap, you know, and you're gonna want colors that will mix and form like a brownish color, you know. How you mix quite a few up and they're ugly and they make brown. I have this big ball of junk. So that's a purple in there. And some of that. Because I probably won't use these guys for anything else. Let's see what this will make. Let's see. Let me mix this up. Just a big wad of colors that are too little to use on their own. Oh, I could even put that in there too. So just begin twisting and pulling and pushing and see what they come out as. We're just looking for like an undertone of like a decking color. It doesn't need to be brown. It can be more of a grayish color because we're going to use acrylic paint on this. It's a big log right here, I can tell you that. It actually looks kind of cool flattened out. And this is a mix. I can feel it. It has some souffle in it. Has some, the purple is Sculpey 3. Has some Primo, Kato. There's all different kinds of clays in here. I'm going to mix this up and see what it comes up with, and then I can add different colors if I want to tint it, you know, some more green and colors next to each other on the color wheel is what you're looking to mix. So like red and green, stuff like that, not opposite each other. So let me finish mixing this and I'll see what I get. I'll be right back. So it's definitely on the purple end, so I need to add some blue. I have a little bit of this from that large flower I just made the other day. I have a couple of the shavings of it that I'm going to add in there. Might as well see if I can get it down to more of a bluer tint. And then I also have for my my raindrop, I have some black, white, and translucent that I'll mix in there. So I'll mix this in and let's see what tone I get with that. And what's good about this pile of stuff, This is what I use to make containers out of. So I've been waiting to save up some more scrap, but this was a container. I'm not done it yet, and I was using Swelligant on it. I still have to apply Swelligant to this part, but it's just a, and then the inside, it's just a container. It cracked a little bit there. This was the first one I made. But because it has an outer, I'm really not worried about that crack. But you can make nice trinket bowls and stuff out of this kind of scrap, especially if you plan on painting them or covering them in clay. That works really well. I'm just gonna stretch this before I can put this in my machine. All these junk colors that you really don't have enough of to add to a cane. I have a huge one that I'm making, but I need a lot of scrap clay, so I've been gradually saving my junk stuff, and at some point I'll use it and finish off that jar. Maybe I'll make some trinket bowls or dishes or ring holders, or I don't know, anything. I have a candle. Actually, I think these are flower pots. This is what I use to base that guy off. I think it's a little flower pot. And I wrapped it in paper, and then I stuck that guy on there. So I'm going to finish mixing this, and this will probably get it a little darker, of a kind of bluey purple color. And then I'll say we'll probably use that. I'll be right back. Okay, so I took a small piece of it, and it is like a mauve-y brown here. So what I might do is take half of it, mix it with this portion of brown. I can keep this brown for something else. I don't know what, but something else. Well, actually, maybe I'll keep this brown all together. I have a ball of this. So I may take some of this lighter stuff and stick it in here. And then we'll take a smaller portion of this, add the darker side in here. Again, this is just scrap, and I'm just trying to get a brown gray tone, which I already had a pretty good gray tone, but I have scrap brown, so I might as well use it up. So I'm going to mix these three up, and then I'll see what we get there. So this is all about just mixing your scraps, and I think we'll get a pretty cool effect. I'm going to use acrylic ink, or acrylic paint in a minute. I really should go get that frame. I made my mom one for Christmas, and then I made myself one first, and then I made one for my mom. And it looks like weathered wood, pretty much. I didn't use chalk paint, I used regular paint. It was just how I applied it. In this case, you're gonna need some kind of really old, cheap toothbrush, or something to scratch it with, even like, you could probably even use some kind of needle or something, just to scratch your clay with. We're gonna make like lines and grooves in it. So let me finish mixing these, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I have kind of 3 different color tones, and you can totally do this with one, but I want to see how it'll come out. And what I'll do in a minute is I'll take my camera upstairs and I'll show you it hanging on my wall. So I have a couple different things here that you could apply texture with. I have just a basic toothbrush. I have a comb that I keep down here for this, for texture. I have a needle tool, I have my scalpel, and then I got in a set of clay tools that I don't use often if I can find it. It looks like a wire brush on one end. Like this. You could use something like this. You just want to make different size lines. Straight up and down. Okay, so first we'll start with the toothbrush, and that will give us fine texture. You could do some dots in it. Okay, those are finer streaks. And I would never say get a hard toothbrush, ever, 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 because I'm a dental hygienist, and hard toothbrushes are horrible for your mouth, but if they can make money on them, they're going to, which is why they sell them. But a hard toothbrush from like the dollar store would probably be good. This will give us a fine texture. Then maybe we'll try the fine tooth on the comb. I know that's hard for you to see. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. And I don't care if I get those little guys, I'm just trying to pat them down a little bit so they don't stick up so much. Those little frilly parts that were coming off. Because I grabbed the edge of the clay. You could take the back of your blade. Or the front of your blade, depending on what you want to accomplish. My dog's ears are itchy, and my other dog over across the room is getting angry that he's shaking his head. See, this one peels it up more. So you just want some finer and deeper grooves and bigger ones. You kind of all want to go vertical. Just think of like the grooves in a piece of wood, a 2x4, like that you would see for your deck or on a piece of furniture. And go over it, you know, as many times as you want until you're happy. Okay, and then grab a few colors of acrylic paint, and you can use whatever colors you want. I'm going to go through mine and see what I kind of want to use. I'll probably use a dark light and maybe a fun tone. Let me go see what I got. Okay, so I got this little chalk paint, and this is called Cashew. It's just like a bony color. I have this one here. This is a heavy body. It's kind of got a mint turquoisey color. And then I don't really like this brown. These are cheap ones that I did a huge painting with, so I'm going to mix it with a little black. And I'll get a dark brown. So I have a piece of box here, which is why I do keep a box of recycling down here. And that way, I mean, when I oil paint, I have a nice mixing pad, stuff like that. But when I do stuff like this, then I can just throw this little piece away. So let me show you what we're going to do. I got to mix up color here, so because I've never used this one. I think I got this at Walmart, honestly. These little sampler chalk paints. And you could apply this with a brush. I'm just really going to apply it with my finger, really. So for this one, let's see, what if I put this one on this color here? So all we're going to do is just apply it on. And play with this, have fun with this. You can take a piece of paper towel, wipe some off here and there. You do want some streaks that are a little thicker, and when it kind of dries, we'll wipe it off a little bit. You're thinking of paint coming off old wood is the kind of technique I'm looking for. Like weathered wood. So maybe that's okay there. So pretty much I'm going to do this with every single color, and then I'm going to let it dry. Now maybe this one, before we apply paint, maybe I'll grab some of my chalks. Where are my chalks? Are they down in here? Yeah, maybe I'll apply some chalk to one of them. Let's see, let's do this one here. And these are my, now when you're looking for pastels, you want chalk pastels, not oil pastels, you want chalk pastels. I've seen people go, oh, I bought some pastels and they're oil and they don't work. So you want chalk pastels. So maybe on this one we'll take some dark brown and I'll apply some dark brown here and there maybe. Maybe some like ochre color. Even do like an olive green a little bit. Like that. I haven't even opened this one yet. So this is heavy body acrylic. This is what I was using with when I was doing mixed media. That will begin mixing with some of the chalk. What's nice about this paint is with the heavy body you can kind of break it a little bit when you're dragging it across, just like if you've ever seen Bob Ross do the snow on the mountains. And you can mix more than one color on a piece, you know. You could add some dark and light into it. You could do whatever you want. Just have fun. And you can use a brush. You don't need to use your finger. Okay, and then we need to let these dry too. So we're going to set those off to the side. And then we'll grab this one. On this one, we'll do a dark brown, so we'll use some black. Again, ooh, I got a little dot on there. I'm going to mix it by hand, by finger, so I'm just going to put a little of each out. I don't really like this brown color on its own. It's too red for me. I'll apply some of that. I used to love red, and now as it, you know, like when I was in 9th, 10th grade, but now I really don't for some reason. Ooh, wow. I got a lot on my finger. So I'm just blending it by hand. Okay, so now we need to just let these dry, so give this a few and let them dry, and when they're done I will be back. And you know what I'll do is I'll go upstairs and I'll show you my things I made a while ago. Okay, so these were just some plain colored boards here, and I added different tones of stain and then some acrylic, different lighter, and I kind of just painted it on there. And then I added little tiny wood hangers and these. And I made my mom like a purple toned one for Christmas. So I made these like 3 or 4 years ago. And this is kind of the design I'm going for, like this slatted look. So that's what I will be kind of creating. Oh, let me show you my toaster oven while I'm up here, because it's not actually a toaster oven. This is what I bake in. It's a KitchenAid, okay? This is all I use my polymer clay for. And it's got bake, warm, toast, broil, different temperatures. I usually leave it on 275, timer, and then this is a toast timer. So it's actually not just a toaster oven. It is actually like a little mini oven. So this is what I do mine in. I have a thermometer here, especially when I first started using it, that I'd put in there to make sure it was accurate. And it is. So now I don't leave that in there, but when I first started using it, I put it in there. So I got this from my mother-in-law, and that's what I use. I also tent with a piece of parchment. I just leave it until it gets too brown. And then I put my little tile on there, and I just lay that right on top. So this is my little baking setup while we're up here. Okay, so when that's dry, I'll be back. Okay, so now that they're mostly dry, this one is for sure. Let me see if I can take a paper towel and get any of it to kind of pull and break. And you could also take your toothbrush again and kind of get it to pull and do some weird stuff. You know, just play with it. Try to get some weird, cool texture. I'll show you this up close in a second. Hang on. Can you see it? To me, it just looks worn. So there's that one. Let's see. This one here. That one just kind of smooths out. There we go. That got it to do a little something right there. You don't need to do this, but let's see if I can create anything different. Make it look a little dirty. And then this one's still a hair wet. Put in these thicker spots. Let me see if I can get it to... Yeah, they're pulled off a little bit. What if I take and just score back into it some in some spots? Oh, there goes a dog. Hang on. Okay, I'm not sure why he was barking, but I'm just going to add some little kind of flicking dots in here. Use your blade. You could use a... maybe like little wormholes. Just do whatever you want to do. It doesn't really matter. Okay, now I need to let these dry 100% completely because they're still just a little tacky on top. And that crackled it a little bit, which actually I kind of like that. Okay, so let me let it dry completely. One of my things just came out of the... I think I have to add one more layer of resin onto this. I got a little air bubble there. That's the other project I've been working on that people said they want to see, so I'm going to post it. Okay, let me clean up my area. Let these dry the rest of the way, and we'll begin putting our piece together. Now you are going to want something to set this on to make it a whole piece. So I would say a dark color, because if you're thinking of looking at like a deck and you're looking down through the slats, it's not usually bright behind it, right? It's usually dark. So maybe a darker color, but again, it can totally be scrap or whatever you want to show on your background if you're not going to make a backing. It could be a dark brown, any kind of color, a dark blue, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So I'll get a piece out that I'll apply it to. Okay, so I edited one. I didn't like this one. I didn't think it was enough, so I added this kind of corally color on top of it. Now I also want to add a little more depth to this one, and I may wait until afterwards. I don't know, we'll see. I kind of want to get the cracks a little darker, so I have a really skinny paintbrush that I might just slightly dampen. Not a lot, just like I even got a wet wipe here. I might just get it to get, this is an old paintbrush, just to pull all the bristles together on the tip, and I may run that, I should say, not mate. I might run that in my chalk pastels and try to get down on those grooves a little darker. I got this chalk pastel kit on Amazon, and it has 64 colors of half blocks of chalk. I might see if I can get it down in some of these grooves. So let me see if I can get kind of a deeper color. So you can really play with this and just have fun. You know, really just enjoy the process of creating. I'm just taking all kinds of colors and just dapping here and there, making it look like kind of like shadows. Giving it a little extra tinting of color so it's not so plain. Maybe it'll look a little dirtier, a little grungier, you know. I'm just wiping my brush on any kind of color I want. And you could probably, if you made a mess, you could probably take very lightly just a wet wipe and just wipe it off the top. Just have a good time. Enjoy, relax, you know? That's what it is kind of stressful doing this for people because there's so many opinions of how I could have changed it, and this is my craft time. This is I don't stress about my crafts. I mean, sometimes I do if they don't come out the way I intended, but this is my personal fun. You know, I don't sell these. I'm not making money on these. I mean, I've sold quite a few, but I'm not making them to sell them. You know, of coworkers or family friends or people on Facebook, my friends on Facebook, high school friends, things, have seen them and been like, oh, I love that one, can I buy it? And they've bought them. I don't know, that just changed it a little bit there. And then this turquoisey one, I have some turquoisey colors in here. I could add some blues. I could add some variations down in there. Why not, right? And we'll resin this to seal it all in well. I know you probably can't see that, but I can. Right. Okay. Let's do this one too. Why not, right? Let's play. Let's have fun. I don't really know what these two big blocks are on the side because I have white here. So I really don't know what those are for. And it's all foreign, so no clue. Let your creativity flow. You can fast forward if you don't want to watch this part. Maybe a little olive green too. I think that's okay. It looks different through the camera for sure than in real life. Like this color here that I'm going to use for my base on camera looks really purple, but it's actually gray. So it's weird that that does that. So let me cover these guys back up so they don't happen to fall all over my floor, which would really suck. I'll show you the box of this. So I got it on Amazon. Came with a nice amount of colors. They seem to work really well. Okay, so now I have my backing color. You can make it darker if you want. You don't need to. And let me get a blade out, and also let me decide on a cutter so I know how long to cut these pieces. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of different cutters in a little box here. I want to use my bigger cutters. I really got one. This would probably look cool as a heart. I wish I had a bigger of one of these squares, honestly. I should order one that's bigger because I like that, but that was the biggest one it came with, which for me isn't big enough to wear. I have different hearts like this, but this type of heart, unless you're going to hang it so it dangles from here, is really hard to put a jump ring in the middle. So just remember that. This heart will probably be a little easier because it's wider. I also have one like this, that to put the jump ring in the middle is hard. So it kind of has to go off to the side. So depending how you're going to string it, it might make a difference on that. So I guess these are probably my best cutters. And you could also freehand it too. Okay. Let's see how tall these are roughly. Yeah, they're all about the same height, so let's just clean up our scrap on, or our backing. Wipe my blade off. some straight edges here. No, it needs to be that way because it needs to be a certain height. If I thin this out, this is on my thickest setting, if I thin this out a little bit, I might be able to get 2 out of it. Yep. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is just grab a baking tile to set this on so I can move it out of my way, in and out of my way. Because when I'm recording, I only have a certain little area and screenshot to show you guys, unless I'm like way out of focus or way far away, just so I can move this in and out of my shot. Okay, so this is what we're going to lay our pieces on. And what we're going to do next is take strips of these, just like if they were 2x4s. Now, you could clean the edges up, but because this is going to be my outside piece, I don't really care. So we want to cut them all around the same. Again, let me make sure I'm using my blade. Just cut strips out. Now, if this was going in the middle of another strip, then I would worry about this edge. But because it's going to be on the side here, I'm probably going to cut it off anyway, so I'm not overly worried about that. And the other thing you can think about is, do you want to leave gaps in between them, or do you want them touching each other? You can just kind of lay them on here like that. If you're worried if it's not straight, you could hover over your base clay. Okay, and then think about how you're also going to alternate your colors. So do I want to do the white? So my thought is, do I put that next to it, or do I put the white next to it? I'll probably do the white next to it. And it's getting a little crackly, which I actually like that, because that looks more like worn paint to me. So because this is going to go next to another one, I'm going to cut the edge off. And just like doing a Bargello, if you pull it towards you, you should be able to get it to stick to your blade. And then I might just leave some gaps in between. Like that. What do you think about that? I kind of like that. I think this is, and then the resin will go down in there. We'll see. We'll see how it works. Okay, and then we'll cut this one. I'm going to cut the edge off again. So all I'll do is just continue layering these pieces on. And they don't need to be perfectly thick or the same exact width. I mean, you can if you want, but they don't need to be. You can have some slightly skinnier. I kind of like how that's turning out, no? Oh, I'm very excited about this one. It's a fun little, kind of easy one to use up some scrap clay, right? I did red. You could have as many or as little colors you want. You could just have 2. That paint, because I applied it last, is a little tacky. And acrylic paint tends to work well on polymer clay. If you're not sure about your paint, you want to do a test piece, you want to put it on a little piece of raw clay and let it sit for a while. and see if it does anything weird, because sometimes it'll make your clay get really sticky. But most acrylics do okay. But if you're not sure if it's acrylic paint, I would definitely let it set for a couple of months. Same with any varnishes, because they can make your piece go weird. Like nail polish will make, if you go clear coat, can make your piece get really weird and turn yellow and all kinds of weird stuff. So if it hasn't been tested by another polymer clay artist, do your own test. Polymer Clay TV she tests a lot of stuff on YouTube, so you know, definitely check that out. She has a lot of YouTube videos where she's put things for a while on a piece of clay and let it sit. And seen if it reacted with the clay in a unfavorable manner. Get off of there. And then I could probably fit this junk piece on the edge here. This was the first strip I cut off here. Right here on the edge. Because only a part of it will be showing. So that's why I didn't throw those junk pieces away. Alright, doesn't that look cool? Now, you could cut it like this if you want. It kind of reminds me of like a surfboard, beach house kind of. You could then cut it like that. I actually kind of like it like this. You could cut it on a diagonal. Doesn't it look awesome? I'm afraid to cut it because I don't want it to squish. We'll see. That's why we got to try it out together. You know, I could have, if they squish too much, I would have rolled these out on a thinner setting. So let's see. Do I want them like that? Do I want them like this? Ooh, I really gotta decide. Do I want them something like that? Oh, there's so much you could do with this, right? And I like right here how I got these little indents, so I might just add a couple of more of those here and there. So maybe on this one, just by flicking it up a little bit. You could also pull in one of the edges and get it to do like weird little little wormhole type things. Now I really got to decide how I'm going to cut it. I really don't know. I think well, let me do, let's see. Can I fit one vertical and one kind of horizontally? I like that turquoisey part. Okay, ready? Here we go. Let's push down really hard. Make sure we cut all the way through. Oh, and the one thing I just did and I should have done was end it where my bail's going to go on a piece of board. So on that one I didn't. Let me show you. Hang on, let me cut this and show you. Because I want it to drill through on a solid piece. But that's okay because I'm going to resin, so I can make that work. Okay, and then I would pick this up. I usually try to pick it up with my cutter still on there. Doesn't those... Oh, I love this. I love this. Can you tell I'm excited? I get all weird voiced. Okay, so I just ended this one right there on a solid piece, whereas this one there's only a tiny dinky piece. That I would try to hold it and keep it on a solid piece, so when you screw in, you have a solid one to screw in. Now I can screw in between these two slats where I have this little tiny piece up here, and add a bigger jump ring and just screw in a little further. Oh, that looks cool, huh? I really like it. Maybe I'll make a couple, like one more. I have enough for probably one more. Okay, so let me make another one. I'll do it off camera, and then I'll be back and I'll bake. Well, I'll bake these at 275 for about an hour. I don't think I'm going to add a border to these because I kind of like the side looking like that. So I don't think I'm going to add a border. So I'll probably bake them for a full hour, and then I can decide later, because if I decide not to add a border, they're fully baked. Okay, so I'll be back when those are baked. I just wanted to show you that I took those scraps that I just cut out and I mixed them together. You can see the flicks of the acrylic, but that's what I'm going to use for my next one, to make my next piece with. So I think I'm going to use the same cutter, and because I don't have much left, I'm going to just mark out where I need to lay it in there so I know I'm covering what I need. Okay, and then I'll make this one. I'm just going to show you this one on camera. Might as well. So because, again, I don't have much, I'm going to start in the middle, and this one I'm going to go vertical. I'm just making sure that's long enough. Okay, and I like this color, so I'm going to start with this color, and I'm going to cut two of these, or this in probably in half. Let me get one straight one, and this is going to go right where my bail and my jump ring is going to be. So I'm going to put that one straight in the middle here. Well, at least in the top middle. Get that off there so I can position it how I want it. That's my fiance mowing the lawn, sorry. And I can also save this little piece down here just in case I need it for the end. Okay. And then maybe I'll do the two white on the side. Let's do some white. Trying to cut this roughly to the same thickness the other one's at. And then I could add the red one just on the edge here. I might get a hint of it in there. Make that so you could stick them, because these are all the same thickness. I could stick them together. And just leave a really tiny space. I want the reds on the end, or do I want to do some of this mint and just do the white and the mint? I have a little mint one here. That would probably be better over here. just leaving a hair of a space between these guys, not such a big gap. I think that will be out of my cutter up here, so it won't really matter. And then let's put this last one over here. Yeah, that looks cool. So just play with this and see if you want them all touching, if you want little spaces between them. And then after you're done, look at it and see if you want to add any extra scratches or nicks or dings in it, little wobbly parts of the board. I do like how this crackled because it really does look like crackled paint. Where's my... You know, where... Definitely make it look gnarled and worn as much as you want, you know. Okay, so let me grab my cutter. I was using this cutter because I prefer this to wear this shape. And I'm going to pick a part of it I actually really like. Again, I want to try to get my jump ring right in the middle of a board. I like that one. You know, you could add like words in it or something. Oh, I love these. I hope you guys like these as much as I do. Okay, so I'm going to go bake these and then I will be back. So these ones are not touching, they're just slight gap. These ones have bigger gaps, and then you could do one where they're completely touching. You know, kind of however you want to do it. 2 colors, 3 colors, 4 colors, whatever. Okay, I can't wait to finish these. Okay, they are now out of the oven. Here's these two. And here's this one. And these are awesome. They have even a cool texture to them. It feels like wood, but I'm going to resin them because I don't want the paint to wear off. And honestly, that's the best thing to seal it, I find. Even better than Renaissance wax, because as I said, I think in this one or the other one, I Renaissance waxed a couple cabochons, and then I had misted myself with perfume the other day at work in my car, and it had spots all over it, so it ate through the Renaissance wax. So I still find resining one of the best ways to seal your project. It will give it a little shine. Hey, if you have a matte varnish you like, a matte varnish might work really well for this. So really whatever you want to do. So we're not going to do much sanding, obviously, because that will take it off, unless you want to sand something to remove some paint, you know, and give it a little texture. I actually really like the second one I made. I wish these were a little closer together, but they're super cool anyways. I'm really happy with these. Let me just clean these tiles off before I put them away. I just scrape them off and then just wipe them a little bit. So they're ready to go for next time. This one I haven't done in a couple bakes. Okay. So all I'm going to do is use my orange buffing wheel to clean up the edges, because you have this weird like little lip from the cutters generally. I'm okay with the back looking like this. I'm not going to add a backing, and I don't think I'm going to add a siding as well. I just don't think it needs it. I mean, I guess if I added one, it wouldn't be this color, but if I added one, it would kind of give it a look like that. It would help you resin if you have trouble with your resin pouring off the edge. It would seal up your edge, so your resin would just go in there. But I don't think I want a border on this at all. I think I'm happy with the edges looking like that, honestly. So I'm going to use my orange wheel with my Dremel 4000. I've showed this many times on different pendant tutorials, but I'll hit the lock button and untwist it to loosen it. This one can trim if you go put more pressure at a higher speed, so it's actually a fine trimming rather than using like a sandpaper disc. I'm going to hold my lock button and twist it closed. Give it a good pull to make sure it's closed. I'm at about speed 15. I'm going to choke right up on it. I'm going to move this so it's over my lap a little bit because it's hard to do it over the table because it's so long. And then I'm going to use my thumb and pull towards myself, except for when I get to a point because it can catch it and bing, I usually go away because it's gentler, especially on like really pointy ones like this. Okay, ready? Here we go. You see it's just removing that lip right there. I'm not even pushing that hard. I really don't even have to. And a lot of times I will tilt it in so I bevel the base so you don't see the bottom as much. I'll tilt it more towards the bottom. And that way when I look from the top you don't really see much of the bottom. I love that crackly edge it gave it. These are super cool and rustic looking. I love these. Okay, I'll do this side as well. Now on a sharp point like this, I'm going to go to the point going towards me, because going away from you, you'll probably catch it. But you'll just have to play with it yourself and figure out what you like. And I'm going to do this side. So I haven't done this side of the tip. I'm going to leave the tip alone. Only work on the tip that's facing my hand, my Dremel hand. Looking at my shape, and then I'm going to flip it and do the rest of the tip towards my Dremel hand. And this one too. So this is nice and fine, but it removes. And it also buffs if you put less pressure, it buffs as well, and that's why I use it first. And then the other one, the white one I show you, I usually use after to get a nice fine buffing. But this smooths the edges quite nicely. And that's it. Way easier than sanding or using a blade, I find. I really like that. Okay, so pretty much next, all I have to do, maybe I'll sand the backs a little bit because I didn't put paper under them, which I don't like doing, and they have some shiny spots. That would probably be the only thing I would do to finish these off is sand the backs, but I'll actually probably resin them first and then sand the backs after. God, I am so happy with these. Just make sure any dust is off. Okay. So I'm going to get these resined. I have a video on how I resin, but I would do whatever resin you normally do, whether that's UV or regular resin, two-part resin to cure on their own. So I tend to use UV resin. Lately what I've been doing, lately what I've been doing is doing a layer of the Easy Dome resin by RJ Crafts, and it takes forever to cure. And then a lot of times, like on these ones, I did that. I did a thin layer of the Easy Dome by RJ Crafts, and then I did a layer of my Decor ROM here, because this only cures in 2 to 4 minutes. But with this, you can get some warping of your pendant. So that's why I've been putting on a little layer of the Easy Dome, so it stiffens everything up, and then go back with the Decorum to dome it, because it's a lot cheaper and it cures in 2 to 4 minutes, whereas that takes a half hour. And it's a little more fluidy, so I tend to get more spills when I use that. And I'm worried about that in these cracks, because it may spill off. I mean, it's easy to fix, but so I don't know. Let's see. So maybe I'll show this one on one of them, and then I'll just speed it up as I do it. Okay, so what I did in the fast forwarded is just filled in the gaps. This might not be 100% cured yet, but it's been in there for probably 20 minutes, so it's not done. But I filled in the gaps so it was mostly level, and that way I can add a thin top layer, and then I'll probably add another layer with my, I'll do a thin layer with my Easy Dome, and then I'll dome it with this Decorum resin because it's a little bit thicker. So I'll add another thin layer. It's hard because it's textured, so my my toothpick was getting stuck in the little grooves. That's why you saw me like pushing it around on my thing, because it kept getting stuck in the grooves. But either way, I'm gonna just do I'll fast forward this as well, just a quick thin layer. It did spill off one of them, but we'll fix that later. I'm not overly worried. It's because when I cut the clay, it kind of pushed it, and it kind of, one of the wood things, I'll show you after, and it kind of spilled off there, but we'll make it work. Okay, so now that I have it fairly level, I'm going to do another layer just to get it all covered with the Easy Dome and get that cured. So I'll show you this in a fast forwarded version. So this is the one where when I cut it, you see this board goes down and a little bit spilled off, and you can see there it spilled off. I just peeled it off, and the little piece that was hanging, I could just twist it off, and I'll deal with this later. But don't mess with it until it's cured. I've actually figured it's easier to wait, because in my how to fix problems on UV resin, once it was doing that, and when I stuck it in my light, it cured the top layer, but then I was like, oh, there's a drip, and then it started pulling that top layer, and it got all these ripples. So just leave it until the end. I have a nice thin layer of the Easy Dome, but I want to get one more thin layer, and then I'll do my Decor on the top. I want this side to be level, and it's not quite level yet. So it may spill off, and I have some air bubbles and stuff. That's because when I heat it, it tends to get really thin. So I'm going to do one more layer of this. They'll all have 2 coats, and then I'll come back and I'll dome it more with my Decor on top. So now that the RJ Crafts resin is completely cured, it's been in there for 30 or more minutes, and I'm so impatient for resining. I absolutely hate resining, just so you know. I'm going to take a peek at them. I have a little spill there and a little spill there because, again, I didn't end the pieces on a board, so I was trying to get it level. It's still not perfectly level. I may end up just grinding those off and just flattening off the ends. Honestly. That's what I may do. This one is stuck, so I'm going to yank that off there. And I wanted to show you this, you can see. So that little piece I just pulled off. Now I have these drips, which is why I said I would sandpaper in the back just in case I got drips. But because with this design you're more apt to get drips, what I would do is take your blade and slice into the resin. And try not to slice into your piece, but you can always buff your piece at the end. And then this is still really warm, so it may stick to my clay a little bit because it just came out of the light. It would probably be better if I let it cool for a second. This one got a drip down the side here. Just slice into it. See if I can peel it off. So however you feel like fixing it, you know, go ahead and do that. Now that's pretty level, but I want to get rid of the drip before I add my last layer of resin because it will want to follow that. And let me see if this one's cool enough. So there's a drip here. So I'm just going to slice it through the resin part. See if I can get up underneath it. And on the sides, I may just use my, oh, don't gouge it too much, Katie. Sandpaper wheel or disc or whatever you want to call it for my Dremel, and I can reshape the sides. Now my buffing wheel's not strong enough, but my sandpaper wheel is, and I got those on Amazon too. Those work great. See, I gouged my back there a little bit, so I'll have to sand that down, but I'm okay with that. Again, these are for personal use. You could also, yeah, just sand it down is what I would do. So, yeah, I got some drips, but they're still totally salvageable. The other thing with the RJ Crafts, and I'm not banging on, I'm just saying things that I've noticed, is it always, when I first started using resin, this was the first UV resin I bought, and I was like, oh my god, it's still smearing. I was like, it's not cured. It actually is cured. It's just, it has this film. So if I use 99% alcohol, it actually takes the shine away. So I tend to use only the 70% alcohol and clean them off before I add another layer or a different resin. That way it's clean and there's no finger grease or whatever. Let's see, do I want to do anything before I finish the resin? I may want to just grind these guys off flat. I should have ended it like I did this one with a solid piece. I should have put my cutter down a little further so the point went to here, but I didn't even think about it. So that's why it's good that I did it, and now you guys know. So let me grab my sandpaper discs. So these are my sandpaper discs. This one's really tight on this rubber, but they come in different grits. They fit in my Dremel. If you want the link, tell me, and I'll find the link on my Amazon for the ones I got. And I use these a lot for trimming, especially like this kind of trimming. So I'll just put it in my Dremel, same way you always do. And then I'm going to actually grind off this edge. Now ideally you should wear a mask when you're doing dry sanding, but I'm going to not. Now it's hard for me. I'm going to move this over my lap so I can see what I'm doing. It's too hard when it's that far away from me. This actually grinds through the resin really fairly well. Yeah, I think I'm doing that. And I don't usually do it this way, but I want it flat, so that's why I'm angling my Dremel like this. And then anywhere where I had drips, just going to sand the resin. You don't want to do this on the surface of your resin because it will grind on it and it'll leave grind marks. And I've never found anything that can polish my resin after I've ground it down, and I have tried messing with resin with different buffing discs and stuff, and I've never found one that works really well. That's just me. To get your resin back to clear after you sand it or something. I feel like you can always see any kind of sanding marks. So this will hopefully be my last layer of resin. Again, it only takes 2 to 4 minutes for the decor ROM, which is why I like it, because I'm so impatient. So that's why I'm cleaning up any of these drips now, so hopefully it won't follow the other drip. Oh, that was dusty. And I can buff those later. Oops, sorry guys, I'm really bumping the camera. I'm sorry, it's so close to me. So now I need to get a piece of paper towel to clean these off with some alcohol. Let me get all the dust off my fingers. And I'm going to resin them the same exact way I resined before. I like the finish of the decor ROM honestly better. It's just my personal preference. No one's paying me to do any of this. I'm just doing it, and that's just my personal preference. It doesn't get this sticky film. It doesn't seem to scratch as easily either, whereas the RJ Craft seems to scratch if you wipe it too hard, and like I can never get smears off of it, like ever. So if anybody's got a trick to that, let me know. I also have buffing cloths, like jewelry buffing cloths and different things that I'll use to try to take smears off, but right now I'm just trying to get off that outer film, kind of that greasy film that occurs on it. And it's still not 100% flat, so this one may need, one's still slightly indented. So I may need 2 coats, but I'm going to go with the Decor Rom next. But it can warp them a little bit, so, you know, if you don't like it warping at all, don't use the Decor Rom because it's a quick curing, so as it cures, it's going to pull in almost. It sets on the outer layer, then the inner layer, so you'll get a little warping. I did on this one, I did a first layer of RJ Crafts Easy Dome, and then I did a layer of Decor Rom, and you can see it got a little indent in the middle, but you see how it's slightly warped? That doesn't bother me. If that bothers you, then a quick curing resin is probably not for you. This does not bother me one bit. So I'm going to resin these the same way I've showed you before, and I'll get them in my light, and when they're done I'll show you how to drill the hole. I'll sand the back, get that finished, buff the sides and the back, and then they will be completely done. See, there's still a little smear right there. That only needs 1 more coat because it's like completely level. That one may need 2 because this bottom part is a little lower. Okay, I'm not going to fast forward through that. You've seen me resin twice now in this video, so I'm just going to resin the same way. What I like about the Decor Rom is it's a little thicker. It's their hard resin on Amazon. This huge bottle is not that expensive. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes or so. Okay, so 2 are out, 1's still in, the one that needed 2 coats. And here they are. This one you could still see the texture of the wood underneath it, so you could do another coat, but I'm okay with that. I did get some air bubbles down in the Easy Dome underneath the top coat, but it's not on the top coat, so I'm okay with that too. So pretty much I'm just going to use my wet dry sandpaper, and I'm going to sand the backs. I won't go up too high. I'll do 4, 6, 8, 1,000, maybe 1,500. Just to get the shiny spots off, to get it even, and then I'll buff that and my sides all with my orange and white wheel, and that way the back is nice and smooth, the sides are nice and smooth, everything's smooth and shiny and done. So I'm going to continue doing this, and I will be back when I'm done with that. Okay, so I have all backs buffed. I use the orange wheel that I usually use and the white wheel, and you can see there are a few gouges here or there. This is the one that it pulled off, but again, that does not bother me one tiny bit. If you wanted to put a backing on, like I said, you could have done a backing. Now, I wanted to show you one quick thing that I haven't showed you before. Because I didn't do a backing and stamp my name to this, say someone goes, oh, I want to buy that. If someone wants to buy one of these, what I would do is I have this tiny little round drill bit. I got it in a round drill bit set for my Dremel. It came with a bunch of different sizes. I actually don't know exactly what size this is. You can also use your blade and carve in your initials if you wanted to. So I'm going to drill in a kg on this. Now this won't be perfect, but it's better than not having anything. I just wanted to show you that it's an option. And then I would take my buffing wheels and I would just quickly buff over that just so it was smooth and not rough. You could use some Renaissance wax on the back of your pendants. Let me just buff this bit. Make them even shinier. See? So now it has just a little KG. You know, again, not perfect, but at least it's there. Let me clean these off. There's 1, 2, and I buffed the sides. I like how the sides look like the edges of the board. And 3. Okay? And so we'll begin drilling our holes now. We're going to use a hand drill. I've showed you how to use this many times. You just open and close it just by twisting the little piece here. And I'm going to start out with my smallest bit always. That way there's less risk of cracking your piece just trying to go to a large one. Try to find the center of your piece. And usually what I'll do is I'll put a little dot where I think my center is, and then I'll check it out first. I'll just kind of press in and put a little dot, and then I'll look and see if I like that. I think that will be about good. I know you can't really see it, but I can. If I get the light to shine on it just right. There. I'm just checking it, and then I'm gonna gently push down and twist. Now usually because I'm using a fairly nice clay, I don't have to worry about going too close to the edges. It does drill through fairly easy, even with the 2 kinds of resin, and these have quite a few coats of resin on them. And then I'll step up my next size. These 2 are about the same size. And I'll do each one of these. I'll just show you one. Now again, be careful because most of these drill bits have this metal piece, and if you put that when you're drilling all the way flat against your pendant, you'll actually get, it'll kind of start to mark it. Let me see if I can do it on the back, because I don't worry about that too much, except for if it's on my front. See how it got like a little scratch of a circle there? Can you see that? Right there? So be careful if that's the front of your piece. You don't want that to do that to your front of your piece. I mean, you could buff it out on the back, that's not a big deal, but you don't want to do it on your front if you can help it. This drill that I got off of Amazon came with quite a few sizes, so I just keep out the ones, or I have them separated, the ones I use. That way I don't have to go through every single one every time. And it has larger ones, but I usually stop at this size. And go from both sides, I'll clean it up for you. Okay, now we got a nice hole there. And then what I'll do is I'll decide what color. I usually do silver because I wear silver the most. But this actually, I've never used these ones because they never have gone with anything. That might actually go with it. It's like a tarnished brass. That one's like an oxidized silver. Maybe that brassy kind of one will go with it. Is it best? Why not? Let's use it. I got a bunch of them. Let's use it. And I'm going to try a 6mm jump ring, but my 6mm jump rings are a little wider in gauge, so they're a little fatter. I'm going to grab my pliers, either 1 or 2 for each side, depending. Let's see if that will fit. Oh, oh, and I dropped it. And I think it was a little wide, just by trying it. Oh, there it is. Trying it. It might be a little wide, or not big enough of a circle to go through this thickness. Yeah, okay. So let me close that back up. Because if I leave it open, it'll get stuck on all my other jump rings in the box. And I have these 7mm ones, which are a little skinnier. Oh, I've never used that color. They're a little skinnier and a little wider around so it can fit through that curve. So I have a couple different sets of jump rings. Now that one was overlapped, but it should work. So what I mean is this is a little skinnier around, so the gauge is a little finer. Can you see on the thickness of it? The gauge is finer. And then they're wider around, which is a 7. So this is a 6, this is a 7. Which means they're easier to warp too, or bend when you're trying to get them through. Okay, and then put your bail on. I usually at this point use 2 different pliers. I love these Beadle-On bent nose pliers. They're my actual favorite, and I bought them at the store, and then I ordered another one on Amazon because going to the store takes 40 or 50 minutes, so it's easier just to order on Amazon, and they were like $7 or $8. It's just a good size for my hand. One's just sitting up a little higher than the other, so I'm just trying to get it flattened off. Should be about good, and then I usually try to twist it so the seam is in the pendant, but you know, with wearing it, that will come out. I actually think that's a good color for it. So I'll do the rest of these, and then I'll put them on a cord and hang them off, and I'll show you when I'm done. I'll clean them up too. They're getting fingerprints. But I'll clean them up. I'll be right back. Okay guys, and there they all are. They're all completed. I did that color for those 2, and then I did a silver one for that one. I'm pretty happy with this technique. I'd definitely play with it some more and have a fun time. Yeah, I got a little air bubble in one of those layers, but again, I'm the only one that's going to be really nitpicky about this over other people. We're all our own worst critics. I really like just the 2 colors, but even these ones are really cool looking. Just love how cool looking they are. Super unique, I think. I don't know. I haven't seen someone make something like this. I mean, I've seen like the wood people mimicking wood, but anyways. So I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. It's a good way to use scrap clay. If it was helpful for you, it's probably helpful for someone else. So please like, share. If you have any questions, let me know. You know, if you do struggle with resin or you're using regular resin, you may want to put a border on. It'll help you from it leaking off, because you do have to build enough layers to fill in the gaps to be able to then get it smooth. And I wouldn't want to wait 24 hours and 24 hours and 24 hours. Oh my God, I'd kill myself. I'm so impatient. I have a hard enough time waiting 30 minutes on some of the resins. Or just don't even have gaps. This one doesn't really have gaps, and I mean very small gaps, and it didn't really have an issue. I could also put them touching too, and I haven't done that yet, but I can do that. So anyways, if you'd like, please join my Facebook page. I'd like to see if you use this technique. I'd like to see what you do with it. On Facebook, you have to hit the little search button at the top. It looks like a magnifying glass. You have to hit groups. And I'm not a person, it's a group. It's Katie's, K-A-T-I-E, apostrophe S. That's how I spell my name. Polymer Clay Friends. I think people are probably getting this part mixed up. It is apostrophe S, T-I-E. Not K-A-D-Y, not K-A-D-I-E, Katie, not K-A-T-Y. Katie is spelled so many different ways. So if you use this technique, that's a great way to show me your pictures. I love seeing people's pictures if they've used it. If you have any questions, you know, we have a lot of people on there, a couple hundred now, and it's fun. It's fun. So if you want to join my group, please do. And I will see you next time. Later.